Okay, we went live on Facebook. Do you hear me? You better with Zoom. Okay, we're live on Torah Direct.
Okay.
And you with me? You hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay, we'll start. Whoever's on is on, whoever's not on is not on. We will start. We're holding the Yud Aleph 11b1, Yud Aleph on Beis in Masechta Gittin. Beautiful Mishnah, and the Mishnah says as follows. If somebody says to an agent, he tells him, give this divorce to my wife. He gave another document to an agent to give it to his slave to free a slave. So the Mishnah says, if he wants to back off on either one, he can back off as long as the document didn't come to the wife or it didn't come to the slave. So as long as the document didn't come to the wife or the slave, the husband or the master can back off of the deal. Divrei Rabbi Meir. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim say, when it comes to the divorce document, that's the case. He can back out as long as the get didn't come to his wife. But he cannot back out once he gave it to the agent when it comes to freeing of a slave. Once he told the agent, here is a document to bring to you to my slave, the agent is the second the agent gets it, he cannot back out of it. What's the reason? What's the reason of Chachamim? Because there's a general rule. You can be zeicha something for somebody else, even though the guy is not here. So that's the agent is zeichet for the agent. He gets it. He accepts it for the slave. Since it's totally good for the slave, therefore the second the agent gets it, since it's totally good, it's as if the guy got it. He was zeichet for him, and it's as if the guy got it. But the divorce is not always good for the woman, because now he's not obligated to support her. He doesn't have to obligate to take care of her. So the second, so therefore, it needs to be done before him. It needs to be that the document comes in her hand. But that the agent got the document doesn't affect, and the guy can back out on it. That's the Chachamim's reasoning. So it's an interesting law, interesting reason.
I have a question on that, which is, that seems to be a difference between Gitei Nashim and Shecher Avadim that was not enumerated earlier. We learned during the last Mishnah, we learned about all the ways that are the same and all the ways they're different, and that was supposed to be complete. But this way that they're different was not mentioned there. Right,
because over there we're talking about the concept of the document. We're not talking about the effect of the document. Over here we're talking about the effect of the document. So the effect of the document is that the woman goes free. The effect of the document is that the slave goes free. In the aspect of the slave, it's seemingly, according to the Chacham, it's a total positive thing. In the aspect of the woman, it's not totally positive. Taka lets her free, but now he doesn't have to support her. So the Gemara says, but that's not true. The Mishnah says, because there is a negative thing. And the negative things is, if a master chooses not to support a slave, he's within the rights, and the Gemara will explain that. I mean, he's in the rights to back off on supporting his slave, even while he's a slave. I'm talking. I'm sorry. That's what the Chacham say. So Chacham say that you need to support your slave. You don't have to support your slave. You don't have to support your slave. So therefore, basically, the second the slave is free, he's machaya, because he's being supported through his own work. But a woman, or your wife, you're not allowed to stop supporting your wife until you divorce her. So now, by the divorce, he doesn't have to support his wife anymore. So that's a negative to the wife. So the wife has to be befanav. To do a negative to you have to be befanav. It has to be in front of her. So Rameir said to them, the second you free a slave, the slave is not allowed to eat any more truma. As long as the slave is your slave and you're a kohen, your slave can eat truma like the kohen eats truma. Second, you free him, he can't eat truma now. He's not eating truma. He eats truma. He's chayiv misa. So that's a negative thing to the slave. Kishem shupeisel. It's ishta truma. So too, if a kohen would divorce his wife, the second she becomes free from him, she's not like truma either. So both of them is a negative. Amalai. So the Gemara answered, you're right. It's not because of the negative. The difference is between a woman and a slave is because the slave is the property of the master's property, and a woman is not his master's property. It's not a husband's property. So it's not because of in essence that he doesn't stop eating. He stops eating because it's not his property anymore. So you cannot bring a proof from Truma because it's not his property.
Right, because by a woman, there's actually a Torah verse that says she doesn't get Truma anymore, right?
Right, not because it's property, because right. it's a different reason. So the concept of slave, it's not your property anymore. Your slave is free, it's not your property, so how can you eat Truma if it's not your property? Okay. So now the Gemara goes into a whole beautiful concept in the aspect of Zachal Adon Shalei B'Fanav. Yosef Rav Huna Rabbi Yitzchak Rabbi Yisrael Kamid Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rav Huna Rabbi Yitzchak were sitting in front of Rabbi Yirmiyah. Yosef Rabbi Yirmiyah come Menamnim. Rabbi Yirmiyah was sitting and he was dozing off. Yosef Rav Huna V'Kama. Pasha Rabbi Huna wanted to wake up Rabbi Yirmiyah. So he said, Shema Mina B'Drabban. He said, when I learned something wonderful, I could learn something wonderful from the Rabban. I could learn a different law. Taif is about Chayv. The law of a Baal Chayv, a lender and a borrower. So we mentioned before, a Baal Chayv, when a guy lends money, a guy borrows money, he becomes meshubed to the lender, any creditor. So now, what happens is the guy Reuven lent Shimon money, and he's not paying back. So Shimon can go and grab property from Reuven's property. What about somebody else? Yankel goes and grabs property for Reuven. Can Yankel grab property for Reuven? So Rabbi Yirmiyah wants to say, Rabbi Huna wants to say, we learn from the Rabban that somebody else can grab for you, just like the agent can make the slave free. He can grab for the slave. So too, a creditor can grab for another creditor. In essence, you can grab for a creditor. An agent for a creditor can grab for himself. Grab for the other person. Rav Huna is
saying that anybody can do it.
Right,
you don't
anybody.
have to be an agent.
No, I just use the word agent. Anybody.
Right.
I know Shimon, Reuven owes Shimon, right? I can go grab. Yeah. I mean, you're becoming his agent.
Money, he didn't pay. I'm just going to go grab the land for so-and-so, right?
Right.
Nobody asked me to do it. I'm just going to go do it.
So he said, we can learn this from Rabbi, from the Chacham. Rabbi Yitzchak said to Rav Huna, if you're grabbing for one creditor, automatically that's negative for another creditor. Maybe Reuven, maybe Shimon has a couple of creditors.
Who bought it, right?
What?
You could be taking the land away from the guy who bought it.
No, the guy who bought it, he shouldn't have bought it. There's a creditor.
Right.
He shouldn't have bought it. That's why you got to go take a title check.
Right?
Yeah, title check. Don't buy anything that there's creditors.
The point
But
is,
meanwhile,
he's out the money and he's out the land, all because of this guy who wasn't even an agent.
But he's even a better one. There's another creditor. What about another creditor? Let's say Reuven, Shimon has another creditor. Now I go grab for Reuven, while Shimon has another creditor. So now you have taken away the land from Shimon, and now the other creditor, Yankel, cannot come and get the land. So I'm chav lachedim. I'm negative. I've done something negative, something else. Amalei in. So Rav Huna said yes. You can do that. Doesn't make a difference if you're chav lachedim. You're gonna automatically hurt somebody else. Adahachi, as they were talking, he said, but Rabbi Yirmiyah woke up, heard the conversation. He fell asleep, he took a doze, and he woke up. Amalahu, so Rabbi Yirmiyah said to them, Dadiki, my children, called them children. He said, you're wrong. That's not correct. Because we know Rabbi Yechanan said, Rabbi Yechanan said, if somebody grabs for debt for a loan in the place where it hurt somebody else, he's not going to. You got to put it back into the place where it is, and now you have to figure out who has the right to how much each person has the right to take from the property. You just can't go and grab all the property for one while there's somebody else in the wing. And Rabbi Yechon already said that. What do you do with our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says you can grab the agent. In essence, the agent takes it for the balabas, and he's free. Now over there, he's not good for the master. He's freed him. The guy says, "I don't want to free him." So the Gemara answers, because when he said, "Tnu, give this to the slave," it's as if he said, "You be zeichet for the slave." The general Osa concept. Tnu. The second you say, "Tnu, give this," when you say "give something to somebody," is as if you. So you're the agent, or I'm the agent. Somebody says to me to give it, so that's as if said that I'm the one who's zeichet for him, not that the other one is zeichet, that I'm zeichet shleim fun of, but I am the one who's zeichet. I get it. I receive it for the slave. So that's the meaning. So the agent is zeichet, he receives it, and then he gives it to the slave. So there comes Rav Chisda says, one who grabs something for somebody in a situation that it's a disadvantage for others. We come to an argument of Rav Lezer and Rabban. He says this goes into the argument of two Tanoim. Now we learned in the Braisa, the Mishnah, if somebody goes into a field, Yankel Mishim goes into Reuven's field, and he gathers payah, and he says, "I'm not gathering for myself. I'm gathering it for Shimon. I'm gathering it for Yankel, who's the ani." The balabas says, "What is he? What are you doing here? You don't have a right to. You're not the ani. The ani has to come and gather. Get out of here. Put it back down." Rabbi Lezer says he could do that, even though Shimon is not an ani. He can gather. He's the agent, and he gathers it for Yankel. Rabbi Lezer says Zachalei. Chachamim says no. Chachamim says no. He has to give it to the first poor man. You take a collected it for a poor man, but you need to give it. Welcome, David. You need to give it to the first poor man. Yeah. You need to give it to the first poor man. So the Chachamim say you take the guy can be zeichet. He can't be zeichet for the poor man he wants to give it. He has to give it to the first poor man that he meets.
Thank you.
So, for this Mishnah, we can maybe try to put into the machlekes. Abchista says, in essence, the Ablezer says, even though there's other aniyim, right? You're hurting other aniyim. They can't come and get this food. And Rabbi Eliezer holds, you cannot do that. Since it's other aniyim, you cannot do that. So there, the Gemara wants to put, the Rabbi Chisda wants to put the machlekes of Zachal al Shoy B'fana. You can grab something with somebody, even though it hurts somebody else. In this machlekes of gathering leket, guy walks into the field and gathers it for poor people. Is he allowed to do that? We're holding 11b 4. 11. We're holding 12a1. So comes a Meimah and says in the name of Papa, Dilma Loi, you cannot compare the two cases. That's what comes, this sage says you cannot compare the two cases. Why not? When did Ablezer over there say that leket shikman peya, leket he can get, you can the guy can go into the field and take it for the poor people? Is only the midah di boy mafkalu l'nachase. And Ablezer says he can't. Ablezer says he can't because you have to give it to somebody else. You have to give it to the first poor man. Ablezer says he can't. You know why Ablezer says he can't?
No. The Chachamim say that he's got to give it to the first poor man. Rabbi Eliezer says he can give it to the one.
Right. I'm sorry. Ablezer says he can. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is it the migdi boy mafkilu l'nachase? The reason is because the rich man, if he wants, he can renounce his fields. I'm sorry. We're talking in essence about the field, about the owner of the field. Can the owner of the field pay? We must be talking about that. We're talking about the owner of the field. The owner of the field. We must be talking about the owner of the field. The owner of the field takes leket from his own field, and he says, "I'm taking this leket for Yankel the poor man." Now the question is, can he do that? Right? Can he do that? So Ablezer says he can do that. The Chacham is saying no, he cannot do that. He has to give it for the first poor man. And Abchista wants to say that that's the machlekes. Ablezer holds you can do that because Ablezer can be zeicha I can be zeicha in essence. The owner of the field becomes the agent. I can be zeicha to somebody else, even though he's not there. The poor man's not there. I can do that. Comes the Chacham and say you cannot do that. So the Gemara says the difference is as follows. Over here, the rich man, we're calling him a rich man, he's the owner of the field, can do that, is for a reason as follows. The migui, this is an interesting thing, migui, in the Gemara, is the aspect of the migui, is a concept, believe me in A, because I could have done B. That's called a migui. It's an Aramaic word. Believe me that I'm saying the truth, because I could have said a better lie. If I was a liar, I would have said a better lie. So believe me that I can acquire this for somebody because I could have done something better. You know what I could have done? Let's say I'm the owner of the field. I could have done as follows. I could have said, all my fields are null and void.
I'm poor.
I'm poor. All my fields are hefke, not a null and void, it's the wrong word. Hefke means they belong to everybody. I give away all my fields. What happens when I give away all my fields? I become poor. Now I can take it for myself. I became poor. I can take leket.
Yeah.
I became a poor man. V'hava'ani v'chazile, he becomes a poor man, and it becomes his. So mi gedezache nafshe, if he's such a ganev, so I say if he really wanted to be a ganev, if he really wanted to be a mean guy, he could have done that. He could have said, all my fields are null. Nobody knows about it if he doesn't say it in public. He's an idiot. He says, all my fields, he can say it privately. It's like I do the chametz. Oh, my chametz is null and void. I say it to my house. You're not going to come and take it. Oh, my chametz is null and void. Right? Nobody knows I said that. I keep it a secret. And now I can take all the leket chicken for myself. Because I'm a poor man. I gave away all my fields. So if I could have done that, I can acquire it for somebody else. I could acquire it myself. So I could surely acquire it for somebody else. You got that?
Yeah.
So in essence,
Yeah,
if he's such a chazer that he only wants to give it to this guy, he could have done it better. He could have done it, taken it all for himself. So therefore, let him acquire for that guy. So in general, Rabbi Lezer will hold you cannot do this, but only in this case, because he could have given away all his fields, become a kogan, and take it for himself.
So the answer to that the Chachamim could give is that, okay, so the field.
No, that's not a question. Therefore, it's not, you cannot bring this case to that case. That's all the Gemara wants to say. The Gemara is not, the Gemara is just saying, you cannot bring the law of acquiring something for somebody else on the account of somebody else to this Mishnah. This is a special case.
Oh, because it's payah.
It's a case of payah, like it's a payah where the guy can.
This law does not apply to payah.
It doesn't apply to. It applies to this law where a guy can say, "Oh, my fields are given away,"
Right.
and therefore we trust him. So we only allow this because of a migoy, not because of zachal adishlei b'fanav, but because there's migoy. Not because maybe Rabbi Lezer holds like the Chachamim. You cannot be zachal adishlei b'fanav. But over here we hold this migoy. What?
I mean, here the Chachamim doesn't agree with Rabbi Eliezer. So what's their complaint?
No, I'm talking in general. I'm talking different Chachamim, the previous argument.
No. I'm talking about in this Mishnah.
Oh, I don't know what the Chachamim will say. But the question, the Gemara's question is that you cannot connect the two Mishnahs, the law to this
argument.
Mishnah.
Okay.
But here.
Well, so I just want to say, because in this Mishnah, the Chachamim could answer that. So even if he becomes poor and he has the right to the pay, he just still doesn't have the right to exclude other onions. He can't exclude other poor people.
Yeah, but he was there first. He's at the field. So I'm not excluding anybody. Nobody knows that I did it. I'm here first. It's my field. It was my field 2 seconds ago.
Okay.
So I gave it away. Now I picked the leket, and now I acquired the field back, right? Because I'm right there.
Right.
So I acquired the field back.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I collected leket chicken for myself, and I acquired the field back. So in essence, every guy can do that, really. If you want to be a chacham, you really can do that. You don't want to give leket chicken bear. You can go and nullify. You say your fields are free. Take the leket chicken bear yourself because you became poor.
Take everything.
And then you can do that.
Take everything. It's ownerless, right? You take it all.
What?
You take it all. It's ownerless.
Yeah, it's ownerless.
Yeah.
Take it all. All right.
Number two is the Gemara goes even a step further, and the Gemara says that you cannot, even according to the Chachamim, you cannot compare it. The Chachamim also is a different law. Over here is different, because over here the pasuk says, if you go down to the bottom, number 5, the pasuk is very interesting pasuk. It says the Torah about leket shechem peah. It's a pasuk in Leviticus. It says v'kai mechalei seilel Upere kama chaleis salaket. La'ani v'lager tazev oisam. So you have the comma usually you have to lay salaket la'ani v'lager, but you can play around with it. Lay salaket la'ani. There's no commas, right, in the pasuk. The pasuk can actually say you're not allowed to collect for the poor man. The poor man has to come and collect himself. So that's what the Chacham said over here, that you cannot collect for the poor. Maybe the Chacham hold you could collect for the poor. But over here, the pasuk says openly, la'ani v'lager loy silaket. I mean, loy silaket la'ani. The pasuk openly says you're not allowed to collect for the poor. It's not the way you read the pasuk ultimately. La'ani v'lager tazev oisam. But there's no comma in the pasuk, so you can really put it as la'ani, right?
Right.
So the Ksiv, Loi Salaket Lani. The Torah says, Loi Salaket Lani. You're not allowed to collect for the poor people. Loi Salaket Lani. You can really learn that the Torah says when it comes to Leket Shikra and Peah, you're not allowed to collect it for the Ani. The Ani himself has to come and pick it up. That's the way you can read the pasuk.
Presumably somewhere else we learned that this verse also applies to Peah. We have to try to go learn that did that.
Same pasuk.
That applies to Leket. It doesn't Leket. That doesn't apply to Shikar or Peah. But we probably learned somewhere that.
We're talking about Leket. We're talking about Leket. Over here we're talking about Leket.
The Mishnah is talking about Peah. I'm sure we learned that the same law applies to all of them.
It's the same pasuk.
It's probably a Gezerah Shava that links them. We just are not learning that here.
Try to get Gemara with Abeleza high leisalake maya. What does Abeleza do with leisalake? Lani. How come the Abeleza holds you can take it for the poor man? So the Gemara says, this comes to teach us that a poor man is not allowed to take it from his own field. Because a poor man can also have a field. Guy can have it doesn't, right? So let's say a poor man has in the backyard of his house a little field. He also has to leave over leket shikra peah. So the Torah says leisalak that a poor man is not allowed to take. He's like, oh, I don't have to take leket. I don't have to do leket shikra peah. Only a rich man has to do leket shikra peah. No, if you have a field, whether you're rich or you're poor, you have to do leket shikra peah. As in general, you should know that a poor man has to give tzedakah also. So if a poor man goes and collects money, he has to give 10% of what he collected. He's got to give tzedakah of the tzedakah. He has an obligation to give tzedakah. Okay. Finish the Gemara. So the Gemara says you cannot bring you can't bring a proof from this Mishnah to connect the law to this Mishnah. Okay, back to our Mishnah. And the Mishnah says you don't want to feed your slave. You don't have to feed your slave. That's a very interesting concept. That if a person has a slave, he doesn't have to feed a slave. Where do you find such a law?
You're not going to get a lot of work out of them.
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of work out of him. How are you supposed to have a slave and not feed him? Was it starve? So the Gemara says you can maybe bring a proof in here that a guy can tell a slave, work for me, and I'm not gonna feed you. Where's such a thing? How do you know this? So the Gemara says, so he's here. The word is that he can tell him. You can tell your slave that the Amalei say Maisi Adecha Limzei Nesecha. Take your earnings from your food, for your food. I'm paying you $100. I'm not paying you to eat. You want to eat, you got to take from that $100 and take food. I'm not giving you food as extra. But you have to feed your slave, but you have to feed him, but he has to take it out of his wages. you're not obligated to feed him extra from his wages.
An odd kind of slavery.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're paying him, or you're telling him to go work for someone else who's going to pay him. So it's kind of weird. I mean, you still own him technically, but really he's just working. He's working and earning his wages, earning his bread.
According to the interpretation, number 11, a master is duty bound to feed a slave if he receives the benefits from his labor. A master, however, has the absolute obligation, has no obligation to support his slave. Thus, he may free himself from an obligation to feed his slave by telling the slave to take his earnings and use them to support himself.
Yeah, he can say, "Go work for someone else. I got nothing
Why
to do
why
here."
should I support you? I don't have to support you. What about a wife?
Yeah.
What about a wife? Can the wife go? Can the husband say, "Listen, go to work"? I don't want to. Go to work. Why should I support you?
He's not allowed to do that.
The kavasa gabi isha, in the case of a wife, where a husband told his wife, "Take your earnings in the place of your food." In the bottom, number 12, the Mishnah sets forth a distinction between a master and a husband. Namely, the master is not obligated to support his slave, while a husband is obligated to support his wife. For the distinction to be valid, the case of a woman must be identical to the case of a slave, so that everything has been equal. A husband does have to feed his wife, where the master does not have to feed his slave. Thus, in the case of the master is one in which he told the slave to keep his earnings and provide for himself. In the case of the husband must similarly be where he told his wife, keep her earnings and provide for yourself. They make such a deal with your wife.
All right. So in other words, if
you have a job,
if you told the slave, go out, find a job.
No, because in general, the law is
you can't get a job, right?
When your wife, when you,
right?
when you
to go get a job, and
but in general,
you still got to feed her.
No, because but the law is I have to feed her, but when she goes out to work, it becomes mine.
Nah.
So let's say I say, forget it. You know what? You go work, take care of yourself, and I don't have to take care of you. Right? Instead of you have to, instead of I take care of you and what you work belongs to me. You go, you take care of yourself, and I'll take care of myself.
So the Mishnah implies he can't do that.
Why not? Isha Ma'iloi. Why not?
Obligation. Because he's got an obligation. That's what the Mishnah says. I
understand it's obligation because that's why. Since the reason why the wife's earning comes the husband is because he has that obligation. Let's say he makes up instead of your earnings. Mm-hmm. Let's say the woman says, you know what? Why should my earnings become yours, and you're going to support me? I don't need your support. I'll support myself. I'm making more money than your support. So you know what? You don't support me. I'll keep my earnings. The woman can come and say that. Why not? I don't need you. I want to keep my earnings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll keep my earnings. You don't support me, and I'll be fine. Listen, you have this today, not a halacha, but you have people that have to keep separate bank accounts, even after they get married. Yeah. The woman keeps her earnings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that way in Torah law. It doesn't go that way. The woman's earnings comes part of the household, as the man's earnings become part of the household.
Unless she had a prenup.
Are there prenups in Jewish law?
No, there's no thing prenup. Prenup is not.
No. If
prenup is after divorce.
No. If the woman owned property before the marriage,
Oh,
And the
something
property
else.
returns income. She gets to keep that income. She doesn't have to share it.
But as long as they're married, the income goes to the husband. She gets to keep the property. She doesn't get to keep the income. She
I
gets
think
to
she
keep the
does
property as
I
long
think
as they're
she does
married,
get to
and
keep
the income
payroll.
goes to the husband.
I
And when
think
they
she
get
I think
divorced,
she gets to keep it.
she gets to keep the income. I
Been a
think she
long
gets to
time
keep the
since I
property.
learned that Gemara.
Okay.
I believe she gets-
Isha Mailai. So the Gemara answers, Isha b'delay safka. What would happen if a woman does not make enough to earn herself?
Exactly.
Doesn't make enough. She doesn't make enough
Husband's gotta
in
make
her
it.
earnings to feed herself and support herself. So therefore, the husband's
Mhm.
obligated. The husband can't say, "Oh, you know what? You don't make enough. Survive on the $50 you make a week." No, that's when you got married. You're gonna support me. So you cannot do
Right.
that to a wife.
But you can't. It's just if she doesn't make it, you gotta fill her up.
You got to fill it out. You got to fill the rest. You can't say, "Oh, you know what? You're making less. You'll have to survive with less." Don't try this at home, guys. Okay, but we're talking. We're talking in the concept of law. We're talking the concept of law. In fact, the Gemara Evid Namilei Saf. What happens if the servant does not make enough? So if the servant does not make enough, the master doesn't have to feed him. That makes sense. Why wouldn't the master have to feed him? So the Gemara says, after a slave, the Noam Karsale Shav, a slave that is not worth the bread that fills his stomach, Lemari Lemarsi Lemai Masavi. What are you talking about? What kind of slave doesn't make enough money for his worth? What kind of slave is that? You got to get rid of such kind of slave. A slave that's there not to give anything, but all you take. What kind of slave is that? It's not a slave.
Right.
So
That's
therefore,
what I
that makes
said.
sense. Every slave
If
makes
the
more
slave
money.
can't get a job, the master
Every
says,
slave
"Sorry,
makes
you're
more
on your
money than
own."
his worth. Every slave makes more money than his work. And therefore, it's worth it for the master to feed him. But your wife, Taka, doesn't have to go to work. Your wife doesn't have to go to work. Where does it say that? Where does it say
Absolutely
that? So your wife doesn't have to go to work. Where does it say to tell your wife to go to work? That's after you got married, that you're going to support her. Now she could say, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work. You can't get on me. I can't have to go to work. You have to support me. But nobody's hiring a slave that's not going to go to work. Hopefully not marrying your wife that she's going to go to work. Okay, so the Gemara says you can't compare a slave to a woman. Self-understood. It's not comparable. A slave, you could make a deal with him that work for your food. You're working enough, Baruch Hashem, making enough money for me to pay for your food. Your wife, you can't make such kind of deals because she doesn't have to make any money.
This is the Chachamim, right? They say
Correct.
that to the slave, it's all to the good to be set free, right?
Right.
Even the slave who
Correct.
can't seem to earn enough to feed himself.
Correct.
It's still better to be free.
Tashma, so the Gemara says, I'll bring you another proof. That a master an owner can force a slave. What happens if a slave, another Mishnah, the slave that was exiled to the city of refuge. He killed somebody unintentionally. And now he's stuck in the other city of refuge. Right? So Yankel had a slave, and now the slave is in the city of refuge. So the Mishnah says, the master is not out to feed him. You're not working for me. You're not in Miklat. You're in the city of refuge. Go figure out yourself how you're going to survive. What should I help you? What should I do for you? Right? Furthermore, if the slave does get a job in Ari Miklat, he has to give his wages to the master because he's a slave. So he has to give the wages doesn't belong to him. Whatever a slave acquires, it belongs to the master, right? So it's a double-edged sword. His master doesn't have to feed him, and everything that he acquires belongs to the master.
It's a good thing the Colin Goddard's wife comes around with cookies.
So what do you see from this Mishnah? So you see, openly this Mishnah, Shma mina yachalav loyim le'eved, that a master can say to the slave, "Asei me, you're going to work for me, right? You're going to work, and I'm going to get the money. Ve'in izonach, and I don't have to support you." So you see from this Mishnah that the master that a guy can say that to his slave. So Gemara says, no, you can't say that to your slave. What the Mishnah meant was, he told the guy in the city of refuge, I want you to take, instead of having to support you, go to work in the city of refuge and support yourself. Support yourself. That's not the wording of the Mishnah. That's not the wording of this Mishnah. So why does the Mishnah say that the work of his hands goes to the master? Doesn't goes to support himself. So what is that meaning? So the Gemara answers Adafa. It means the surplus, the extra money. We're going to evaluate how much does it cost for him to live in the city of refuge, and if he make, let's say it costs him $1,000, he makes $1,500 a week. So $1,000 he keeps, and $500 he has to give to his master. Why do we need a Mishnah? Tell me that. Why should the slave be able to keep the extra money? It's not his; it belongs to the master. So the Gemara says, what does the Brisa come to tell us? You might have said, when the slave doesn't have any food, when the slave doesn't have any money, he doesn't have to give him, the master doesn't have to give him anything. So now that he does have, he shouldn't have to give it. Maybe I think goes both ways. You don't have to give me, and I don't have to give you. Why should it's not fair that you don't have to give me and I have to give you. So I would say, I might think you come to the city of refuge, you don't have to give me anything, and I don't have to give you anything. You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Kamashla, until the Mishnah tells no. You cannot take advantage. As long as you're a slave of this guy, you're obligated. If you're going to make an unbelievable amount of money, you're obligated to give it to the guy because it's not your money, it belongs to the guy.
Didn't know there's so many business opportunities in the Ari Mikla.
That's the Gemara's question. So we could have done this everywhere. Why does that have to do with Ari Mikla? That's the Gemara's question. The Gemara's question is, what does it do with that concept? What happens if the slave is working in the regular city? He should support himself, and the rest he should give to the master. It's the same law. So the Gemara answers, I would think that this Ari Mikla is different, because Ari Mikla says that he shall live there. You might think that since the guy is in Ari Mikla, he has to go to the city of refuge, maybe he deserves some little more money. Guy's stuck in Ari Mikla. Not only has to go make a living, he's stuck in the city. He can't leave his boundaries. You might think that he deserves extra money. So the Gemara, but the Mishnah tells us, no. You evaluate how much money he needs to live, and the rest he has to give to the master.
Yeah, which could be a lot if it's New York is the Ari Mikla, right? It's expensive.
You're right. I don't know what New York. There's no Ari Mikla in New York, but it could be, I don't know. Tel Aviv could be expensive too. I don't know all the Ari Miklats in Israel. Hebron was Ari Mikla. I don't know. It's not too expensive. Hebron. Okay. So now the Gemara continues to defend the view that the master cannot take his slave's earning without feeding him. The Gemara was the first to claim that the Brisa is speaking in case of the master told the slave to use his earning to feed himself. Now the Gemara goes and argues with this concept. Holding 12a3. So the Gemara continues, but we taught in Sefer, learn the second part of the Mishnah. Aval Isha shegol salad miklat. We said a case of a slave going to an Ori Miklat. What would be the case if a woman killed somebody unintentionally and she is in the city of refuge? Okay. So Baila Chayib Bimzaneseh. Her husband has to support her. Doesn't have to live there, but he has to support her. Right? Miklau. Why didn't the husband say, go to get a job? Why didn't the husband say, go get a job? You're not in Miklau, go get a job, support yourself. Why should I support you? I'm living in Jerusalem. You gotta live now. You killed somebody intentionally. You gotta live in Ori Miklat. Go support yourself.
And if you're an extra, I get it.
Well, it reverts back to him.
No, first the Mishnah says Chayv B'Neiseh. You have to support her. She can still, relax in Ori Miklat because because the husband has to support her. Miklal, this implies the Amala. He didn't tell her that. The Amala, if he would have told her that, why would the husband be responsible? Listen, go support yourself. Why couldn't he tell her that? Why couldn't the husband say, listen, you're not in Miklat, you need to support yourself? I can't support two houses. So now you're stuck in an umbilical. You might be stuck there for 20 years. You might be stuck there for 50 years. So what should I tell you? You need to support yourself. I can't support you. You have to understand, in those days, they could have been married to a couple of women. Right? I'm not moving to Miklat. I have another 5 wives. You're on your own, baby. So we must say that he didn't say that to her. And that's what it says. You have to support him because you're not saying anything. You're not telling her to support herself, so you have to support her. So me to say for the Le'amala, and since the latter part of the Brisa speaks of the case which the husband did not sell his wife to pay for her own food, so the first part of the Brisa is also speaking about the same thing that he didn't tell her. So we're talking a case that he didn't tell her. You said that they told the servant to support himself. We're talking a situation where he doesn't say anything. So the question is, if you don't say anything, so a woman you have to support. What about a slave? You don't have to support your slave when you don't say anything. What do you expect? What he should do? He should know that he has to support himself. Why would he have to think he has to support himself? You've been supporting him all this time. So you must be talking about where you said it. I mean, you didn't say it. So in the beginning, you didn't say it either by the servant. So now you see open the Mishnah says that a servant that you sent out to work, to the servant that goes to Ori Miklat, you don't have to support. That openly shows that you don't have to support a servant. That you don't have to support a servant. That you don't have to support your servant. That you don't have to feed your servant. Basically, he has to feed himself. So the Gemara says no. Both in the beginning, he says that he told the servant and he told his wife, go support yourself. So what's the difference between a servant and a wife? The difference is, again, if he cannot support himself, if she cannot support herself. So with your wife, with a woman, you have to support her. So in essence, if she goes out to work and she cannot make enough money, then the husband has to support her, even though he told her to go support herself. So both of them are talking about that he told us the Isha but Safka. The situation is where the wife does not have enough. So then if the wife doesn't have enough, the husband is obligated to support her as long as he's married to her. So even though she's in Ori Miklat and he's in a different part of the country, he's still obligated to support her as long as he's married with her. And she, even though she's living in a different part of the state. But the Gemara says you cannot say that. Because the Brisa continues, the Brisa says, oh, Miditani Sefer, but since the last part of the Brisa, if you look at the last part of the Brisa, it says, Im Amala, Si Maisi Adayach Bim Sayach. If the husband tells her, take your earnings and place them in your food, Rashai, he's allowed to do that. So now we have the end of that, but I says openly that a husband can tell his wife, go and make enough money for your support. Do enough money to support yourself. So I, the Mishnah said 2 seconds ago, he cannot do that. So the beginning of the Mishnah talk about we didn't tell her that. So now we're back to square one. So the beginning of the Mishnah is talking about didn't tell her that. And that's also considered by a slave, we didn't tell her that. So you see the difference. They see openly by a slave. A guy can tell a slave, doesn't have to tell him anything. He's in the city of refuge. Go and support yourself. Miklal to the Eisha de Le'amala. So it comes at the Mishnah that Eisha is talking about they didn't tell her. So that's a problem. So the Gemara answers, this is the meaning of Bryce. If she earns enough to pay her food, and the husband told her, take your earnings in place of food, that's when it's right. So now we have two cases in the Mishnah. Last case in the Mishnah is that the husband knows that she's making enough money. If the husband knows that she's making enough money in the city of refuge, and he tells her, take it instead of use that for your food, you can do that. The first part of the Mishnah is we told her, and there's not enough, and there's not enough food. She doesn't make enough. He could tell her, use your money for your food, but there's not enough, and therefore he has to still feed her. And by a slave, he can tell her, go and work for your food. And not only does he have to do that, but the extra money goes to the husband, goes to the master.
And if the slave can't earn enough, he's not under any obligation.
What?
If the slave can't earn enough,
and if he doesn't have enough, it's not an obligation. Correct.
That's the difference.
That's it. You better go and work enough to support yourself, because you're not working for me. You're sitting in a city of refuge. So in essence, you cannot do that to you. So the only way you can tell your wife to support herself is that she can support herself. So you say, listen, you need to support yourself. Baruch Hashem, you can make a living, support yourself, and we'll wait till the Kohen dies and we'll get back together. But if she cannot do that, then the husband has to support her, even though he told her that. Why would I think difference? The svek is my lemaimer. If the Bryce talking about she earns enough, what is it to say to her husband? Tell her to support herself in exile. He may do so. I mean, isn't that clear? The guy, she's making enough. Why should she take her husband? Why should he support her if she can make enough money? So Mao the Tema, because I might think Kol Kvuded Bas Melech Pnima. I might think that why should she tell her to support herself? Shouldn't she stay home all day? Why would you tell your wife to go to work? Why are you telling your wife to go to work? That's a general question. I'm asking the two men over there. Why would you tell your wife to go to work? The beauty of a Jewish woman is she's home. Kamashmalan.
You can still put her to work.
No, but not go get a job, not to work.
You're not outside, right?
Not outside. So
Right.
why would you tell her? Why would you tell your wife to go to work?
Yeah. So the point is, how is she going to advertise in a new city, right?
No, she has to go get a job. She got to go. Oh, you mean to do the job in the house? No, she got to go get a job. She become a lawyer. She become a doctor. She become a secretary. She become whatever she do. She become a baker. She become a cleaner. He's asking you to go out of the house and go get a job. Why are you telling your wife to go out of the house? The beauty of a Jewish woman, she stays home. So therefore, you might say that. So therefore, the Mishnah says no. You
Gotta
can
go.
tell your wife to go to work, but that's only in Miklat.
Yeah, no, that if she's in a different city, there's no choice.
Yeah, but still, if you can support her, why
Yeah.
should she go to work in a different city? Let us stay in a different city, let us stay home. Why should she have to force to go out to work?
So the price is not making a recommendation. It's just saying what you have the right to do.
No, I think in general, you should
Not a
in
recommendation.
general, when a person gets married, he says in the Ksubah, he says in to support his wife. Really, wife shouldn't have to go to work. The society has put on the women to go to work. Oh, we have to make two. But really, under the chuppah, you told your wife you're going to support her. So she really doesn't have to go to work. Right?
Right.
Really, she should really that she goes to work is extra. Really, shouldn't have to. That's called kudas mel. The pasuk called kudas bas melach pnima is in general. It's a general pasuk. It's not only concerning this case. Kol kudas bas melach pnima is a pasuk. The beauty of a woman, and she's pnima in her beauty. She doesn't go out there to the world.
But back in that time, if you had multiple wives and they were in different cities, it's probably hard to sustain that.
Right. Well, they weren't in different cities. No. I don't think the multiple wives were in different cities. They were all in the same city. They're all in the same house.
No, in the same, yeah.
Now, in this case, we're talking about one had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's just interesting. I'm just saying in general, people think that the wives have to go to work. That's a new concept in society. The wife has to go because we want to live a certain kind of lifestyle or whatever, because we want to, But really,
Yeah, it's not so new.
really,
It's
the
not so new,
Ksubah,
really.
you said you're going to support your wife.
Yeah.
Not that she's going to support you.
Mm.
Okay, we'll stop over here.
Yeah.
Beautiful Gemara.
Yeah.
Very deep,
Yeah.
very interesting Gemara. Pleasure learning with you guys.
Okay, pleasure.
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful and beautiful evening.
You too. All right.
Amen.